Okay, I'm going to drop one in and show you what that looks like. So here's the camo crab, hat height. You can see it splashed all the way up onto my sleeve there. You could hear it. Here's the prize fighter. You could see how much less splash that made. The noise it made was really just it hitting the bottom of the bowl. Hey, it's Patrick here. Hey, I wanted to talk to you about my new crab fly. It's starting to hit the market. It's out there a little bit into some shops now. More and more of the colors and sizes, or weights I should say, are coming into stock. So it's almost January and permit season is closing in here. So this is a good time to talk about it. The fly is called RIO's Prize Fighter. Permit or a prize catch, and anyone would be fortunate and thrilled to catch one. So, and then playing off the boxing term, we have two weights of this. So one is called the lightweight and one is called the heavyweight prize fighter. So anyway, the reason this fly came about is because in my experience with permit fishing, and that's limited, but I have hooked two. The first time I hooked a fish was on a Bowers Flats crab. We were in southern Belize, and I got one to eat it, and I promptly broke it off as the fish ran the other direction. So that was my bad, too much on the hook set, and I learned my lesson. The second time I hooked a fish was on a fly called the camo crab. And camo crab is, you know, if you look at them, flats crab and camo crab have a lot of similarities to them. So the thick legs out of rubber material have a certain stiffness to them, and then the bottoms. So this one has lead dumbbells. This is the flats crab. Lead dumbbells are hidden under here, but then there's this coating on it that gives it a pretty flat bottom. The camo crab has this very unique tungsten powder weight material that's kind of like half an M&M or so shaped and glued to the bottom of the crab. That gives it a very unique, you know, weeble wobble kind of feel, and swims really nice, sinks really nice, all the things. So the second time I hooked a fish was on one of these, also in southern Belize, and I managed to land that fish. So when I'm talking about the fly that I've designed, I am by no means putting these flies down. They have caused my encounters with permit, and you know, I'm grateful for that. Why I have come up with my own version though is because when I'm fishing and I see things and I hear things, as a fly designer, I want to try to improve upon that. In both of these cases, I'll start with the flats crab. The two things that I really dislike about it are these rubber legs. One, they're getting harder to source, and two, they are rubber, so they dry out, get brittle, and crack and break very quickly, especially when they're exposed to the salt water and the hot sun. So they have a short lifespan. The other thing is that this fly is rather heavy. It was too heavy for the situation I was in. I got lucky by hooking one, honestly. And then a couple other side things would be the splash this makes when it hits, and the limitation of colors you can get out of either wool or egg yarn or whatever you're going to use on the surface of this fly. The camo crab, I loved it. I wanted to love it more. However, this also uses a rubber leg, and it can dry and get brittle and break. It has this, you know, as I mentioned, this weight at the bottom, but it is like, so let's just back up a second. If you want to measure how things splash, what's what's the first thing that comes to mind if you want to make a big splash in a pool? It's cannonball, right? So if you drop a round sphere ball into water, it's going to make the biggest splash. There's a cavity that forms behind that ball as it enters the water, and as that cavity collapses on itself, it shoots the water into the air. It also makes more noise. So the sad part about this is that half dome is like dropping a ball into the water, so therefore it makes a big cavity, big splash. We were spooking fish at times because of that noise, and our guide made a comment that he loved everything about this fly except the bloop that it makes and the splash that it makes. Okay, so that was the premise, kind of my starting point. The things that I kept were its size, so that kind of dime size was the starting point. That's the same on both of these. I did not want rubber, so I went with floss. And the reason I went with floss is because silicone is too soft. So when it's swimming or sinking, the legs would collapse and stay collapsed. The floss legs behave more like the stiffness of rubber, even though they don't have the same thickness. That actually ends up being a good thing because real crab legs are fairly translucent at this size, so it does allow some light to penetrate through, and these do that. But the main thing I wanted to do is try to create something that didn't splash like these flies did. I wanted something that entered the water more quietly. I watched videos of high divers. I watched videos of people dropping things into water to see which things had least splash and most splash. So what I ended up coming up with was this unique weight system where I've got a tungsten bead mounted underneath the shank of the hook and centered. So it gives me the weight that I need, and it kind of behaves like that camo crab where it can sink and swim very flat. The kind of the fibers, bristles around the bead break up that cavitation, and as do the hackle fibers around that. So as this enters the water, it tends to do much less splash and much less noise because of it. So I'll try to drop a couple here. I posted a video on this on my Instagram some time ago to show dropping. I didn't name the flies at the time because I was still working on it, but it was a camo crab being dropped in and one of my prototypes being dropped in. So, okay, I'm gonna drop one in and show you what that looks like. So here's the camo crab, hat height. You can see it splashed all the way up onto my sleeve there. You could hear it. Here's the prize fighter. You could see how much less splash that made. The noise it made was really just it hitting the bottom of the bowl for the most part. So much quieter entry for the same size fly, but more importantly, the same weight fly. So when you weigh the heavier flats crab, these weigh about 1.7 grams roughly, and a camo crab weighs about 1.3 grams. This is kind of the preferred weight and size in Belize in particular. So with the weights of this, I can do two weights. So the heavy weight matches this, 1.7 grams, whereas the lightweight version of the prize fighter is 1.3 grams. So it matches a camo crab in weight. The nice thing too is that I'm able to do, I've got 6 colors right now of this, and they match your marl bottom, they match a sand bottom, they match multiple different things. So there's a species one, kind of like the blue gray, that matches a blue crab that so many fish are used to seeing. We've got olive brown. I would say that matches kind of your darker olive flats crab and camo crab. We have a sand brown, and that's more of this color combo of the camo crab. We have a sand olive, which I'm holding here in my hand. It's light, kind of sandy with the olive highlights in it. We have a sand tan, which also has the red claw tips because that matches the species of crab typically. It has that. And then last we have an all white one. And that white one is key because in some cases you're fishing over bleached sand bottom and the crabs are pretty white anyway. Secondly, it allows you, the angler, to have some markers with you on the boat. Give them to your guide or let you color them up as you need when you're on the flats. So that white one gives you some versatility. So it's on the Gamakatsu SL12S big game version. So a size 2, super strong hook, plenty of gape to get those hook sets in there, but not too much hook. The top, as I said, is just, it's able to be colored. It's epoxied in place, so it's super durable. And anyway, I hope you like it. It's the RIO's Prize Fighter. It's out now. Not all colors are in stock yet, but as they roll in, shops are getting them and they're becoming available. So if you're heading out permit fishing this season and you want to give it a shot, think of the Prize Fighter and let me know how you do. Thanks.